Have you ever like just found yourself grabbing a snack or something when you're not even really hungry?
Hmm.
Like maybe you're stressed about work or something, or, had a rough day and just want something comforting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been there.
Right, exactly. Like,
Huh.
what is that all about? What's going on in our heads?
Well, that's what we're diving into today. The psychology behind why we sometimes turn to food when what we're really craving is emotional comfort.
I like it.
Huh.
Okay, so where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, let's talk about this idea of regression. Have you heard of that in a psychology context?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I definitely need a refresher.
Okay, so basically it's like a defense mechanism our minds use. When we're faced with tough stuff like stress at work or relationship problems or, just feeling overwhelmed, our brains kind of revert back to more basic behaviors that brought us comfort earlier in life.
So it's like going back to what felt safe before?
Exactly. And to really get this, we need to touch on Freud's theory of psychosexual development. It's a bit much, but the key takeaway is that we go through these different stages growing up, and each one has its own focus.
Okay. And you're saying that like early on, eating plays a big part in that.
Exactly. The very first stage is the oral stage, and it's all about the mouth. Think about babies. They get so much comfort from sucking, chewing, feeding. Like it's their main way of interacting with the world and feeling secure.
Okay, see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So like when we reach for food as adults, when we're stressed, it's like we're tapping back into that early comfort.
You got it. It's like our subconscious is looking for that same sense of security and satisfaction we got from oral activities way back when.
Wow. So basically emotional eating could sometimes be like a subconscious throwback.
Yeah, you could say that. Now, our sources actually highlight this really well with a few examples.
Oh, perfect. I love examples. Let's hear them.
Okay, so first up we have John. He's a software engineer working on this huge project, super tight deadline, long hours, the drill. And he starts noticing this pattern whenever he hits a snag in his coding. Bam! He wants snacks, chips, candy, anything.
Oh, man. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Like your brain just needs a break.
Right. And at first he thought, maybe I just need some energy. But then he realized it wasn't actual hunger. It was tied to feeling stuck or stressed about the work. Eating gave him a quick escape, a little hit of pleasure, and this illusion of control.
So interesting. Like the act of eating itself is almost a distraction.
Exactly. And that's classic regressive eating. Stress triggers it. And the subconscious is seeking that oral satisfaction it remembers from way back.
So crazy how these things are connected. And it's not just work stress, right? Our sources also talk about heartbreak. Let's hear about Emily.
Yeah. So Emily went through a really tough breakup, and she found herself turning to lots of sugary foods, cake, ice cream, chocolate, the works. But it wasn't just about enjoying treats. It was more about seeking solace, numbing the pain.
So again, not really about physical hunger.
Nope. It was her way of coping. Subconsciously, she was going back to this childlike state where food equaled comfort and security, like when a baby is soothed by being fed.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Food is a symbol of comfort.
Exactly. It's all about self-soothing with those familiar early behaviors when you're feeling emotionally down.
Wow. It's amazing how much our emotions influence our eating habits.
Right.
And we have one more example, right? Dealing with academic pressure.
Yeah, this one's about Michael. He's a high school senior getting ready for the SATs. Tons of pressure to do well. So he takes a practice test, doesn't do as well as he hoped, and his anxiety goes through the roof.
Oh, I can only imagine the stress.
Right. And what does he start doing every time he sits down to study snacking? Like, it's irresistible.
So was it just procrastination or was there something deeper going on?
It was deeper than that. It was a way to avoid facing those worries about his future and the possibility of not doing well. Instead of dealing with the anxiety head on, he channeled it into eating.
So he was basically using food as a coping mechanism, a temporary escape from the pressure.
Exactly. And again, it's that subconscious thing at play. Using eating as a way to feel better, even if it's just for a little bit.
Wow. Okay, so we've got John, Emily, Michael, all dealing with different stressors, but showing the same pattern of regressive eating. And I guess in a way it makes sense, right? It offers this immediate relief, even if it's temporary.
Right. It's like a quick fix. But our sources also point out that this can be problematic in the long run.
Right, because you can't just keep eating your feelings forever. What kind of issues can come up?
Well, think about it. If you're constantly turning to food for comfort, you could end up with weight gain, obesity, digestive problems. You might even develop this unhealthy emotional dependence on food, where it's your only way of coping.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not a sustainable solution.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Our sources also talk about this behavior as like an indicator of something deeper.
Yeah, it's like a warning sign. It's telling you, hey, there are some unmet emotional needs here that need attention.
So recognizing that you're engaging in emotional eating that might be rooted in this regression thing is actually a good first step.
Absolutely. It's the beginning of figuring out healthier ways to cope with those difficult emotions.
Okay, I'm really liking this.
Yeah.
So we've got the what and the why. Now for the most important part, what can we actually do about it?
Well, the good news is there are things we can do. Our sources give some great examples based on John, Emily, and Michael.
Okay, let's hear them. What worked for John with all that work stress?
So John realized he needed to find other ways to manage his stress that didn't involve food. He started going for a jog every morning before work, and he also started practicing mindfulness meditation before bed.
So getting active and finding some mental peace.
Exactly. And these new habits helped him feel more in control of his stress overall, which meant he didn't feel the need to snack as much when work got crazy.
That's awesome. So it's about addressing the root cause, the stress, and finding healthier outlets. What about Emily? What helped her after the breakup?
For Emily, it was all about rebuilding her support system and finding her own sense of worth again. She joined a yoga class and a book club, which gave her a chance to connect with new people and explore new interests.
So basically filling that void with positive experiences and connections.
Exactly. She replaced the comfort she was seeking in food with real human connection and self-care. And as those things grew, her need for emotional eating naturally decreased.
Love that. And finally, we've got Michael struggling with the academic pressure. How did he turn things around?
Michael's breakthrough came when he changed his mindset about studying and tests. He had this mentor who helped him see tests not as these big scary threats, but as opportunities to learn and grow.
So it was about changing his perspective on the challenge.
Exactly. And as he focused on understanding the material instead of just fearing failure, his confidence grew and his anxiety went down. And guess what? The urge to snack all the time faded away.
That's so inspiring. So it seems like a big theme here is becoming aware of the trigger, recognizing the urge to regress, and then consciously choosing a different path.
You nailed it. It's about shifting from that automatic response to a more mindful approach to handling our emotions.
This has been so eye-opening. So to recap, when we feel that pull towards food, when we're stressed or down, it might be more than just a simple craving. It could be our subconscious mind trying to soothe us in a way that worked when we were younger.
Right. It's this defense mechanism called a regression. And it can pop up in response to all sorts of things. Work, stress, relationship problems, academic pressure, you name it.
And the important thing to remember is that recognizing it is the first step. Once we understand what's happening, we can start to break free from those unhealthy patterns.
Absolutely. And it's not just about food. It's about reclaiming control over our emotional well-being and finding healthier ways to cope with life's challenges.
So here's a little something to think about.
Yeah.
Next time you reach for food, when you're not actually hungry, pause for a second. Ask yourself, what might be going on beneath the surface? What emotions am I trying to avoid or soothe? And what's one small thing I can do instead of turning to food that would truly nourish my mind and body? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
See you then.